SpongeBob is one of the most popular franchises of all time. Who could have guessed that a silly show about sentient sea creatures would go on for 15 seasons and counting, and spawn with it multiple movies, numerous video games, and even a Broadway musical? Hamilton has nothing on this. Growing up, video games and television were my main form of content consumption, so it's safe to say that SpongeBob infiltrated every facet of my childhood. There were multiple games that many of us grew up with and were probably very fond of, like Battle for Bikini Bottom, Lights Cameras Pants, Creature from the Krusty Krab, Battle for Bikini Bottom. Can you tell I like this game? There were also some games that sort of went under the radar. Today, I want to take a look at one such game that goes by the name of SpongeBob SquarePants Employee of the Month. Originally, I was going to play this game as part of another video, but this game is just so special that I had to turn it into its own dedicated video. However, that other video is still on its way and it's going to be a good one. So if you want to get notified when it drops, make sure you press that subscribe button down below. When I was younger, I played Employee of the Month on a shitty little Toshiba laptop that my family had. In fact, I even have my original physical copy. I don't have a disk drive. Before we talk about the game itself, let's talk about how I actually got this game working, because launching this game was probably the biggest challenge of this entire video. You see, this was a PC-only game that was released for Windows back in 2002. If you can't do the math, that is equal to a very long time. Windows is notorious for not maintaining the best backwards compatibility when it comes to supporting their older software, and this proved to be quite the problem for me. I spent an entire night trying to get this game working. I first installed it normally, but whenever I started the game, it would just crash or freeze on a black screen. I tried changing the compatibility mode, didn't work. I tried running it as an admin, didn't work. I tried some patch I found on a wiki, still didn't work. I explored the possibility of running it in a virtual machine with Windows XP installed, but even that seemed like it wouldn't be the best option due to performance issues with playing a DirectX game. At this point, it was 3 AM and I had exhausted all of my options. Before giving up, one last idea came to my mind. After a bit of research and some more HackerMan tinkering, I couldn't believe it, but I finally got it working. On a Steam Deck. So I got the game running on my Steam Deck, but now I had the issue of how to record it. Luckily, I still have a decade-old Elgato because I'm a nerd and used to record Call of Duty montages. I also happen to have a USB dock with an HDMI output for my Steam Deck because I'm a damn nerd and played around with dual booting it before. So with the power of these tools, I was at last able to deliver you this. Employee of the Month is a point-and-click puzzle adventure game released in 2002. I played this game as if it were a roguelike growing up. Every time I would play it, I started from the beginning for some reason, getting farther and farther each playthrough until one day when I finally beat it. That was one of the proudest gaming moments from my childhood. This game was one of the first puzzle games I had ever beaten, and I got all the way through it without using any guides or hints. So now, 20 years later, I want to see if I can do it again. The introductory cutscene begins with a fourth wall break that sees our cast of marine biology wrapping up a shoot of, presumably, an episode of the show. Mr. Krabs receives some mail containing 2 tickets to Neptune's Paradise theme park, which he decides to give to SpongeBob for being Employee of the Year. I know, it's a bit confusing considering the game is actually called Employee of the Month. SpongeBob invites Patrick to go on the trip with him and they agree to meet up after work. We start off outside the Krusty Krab. I enter the establishment to find a hungry customer waiting for his Krabby Patty. Being the Employee of the Year that I am, I decided to fetch a Krabby Patty for this poor starving customer. I collect the dirty plate and move to the back of the restaurant where I find Squidward working. I retrieve some toppings from the salad bar, ask Mr. Krabs for a raise, then went to my workstation. Here, there is a closet that has a bunch of neat Easter eggs to episodes of the show, as well as this. There was already a Krabby Patty sitting in the kitchen, so I grabbed it, put the toppings on it, washed the plate, then plated the food. Upon delivering the patty to the customer, he lets me know where to find the bus stop to get to Neptune's Paradise. This unlocks the next part of the map, which now lets me explore downtown. I head downtown where I find Patrick already waiting at the bus stop. I apparently don't have any tokens for the bus, so I ask Patrick where I can find some. He doesn't know, but the game unlocks a new location on my map, so that's probably a subtle hint. Before I head to the Goo Lagoon, I find this jewelry shop on the other side of downtown. Here I compliment the store owner, who in return gives me a VHS tape. These don't serve any real gameplay purpose, but collecting these unlocks some bonus videos that give you a behind the scenes look at how the game was made, which is actually pretty cool. I really miss when video games would go the extra mile to add bonus content like this into their games, especially when it was bonus content that had to be earned through gameplay. Afterwards, I made my way to Goo Lagoon. We don't get anything substantial here yet, but we do receive a few new quests. At the beach entrance, talking to this lady clues us into some buried treasure somewhere along the beach, but we don't have any way to dig it up. On the beach itself, we can find this tanning stingray who is willing to trade his sunscreen for some cooking oil, as well as this totally normal fish pacing around inconspicuously.
Hi!
I swear, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. You can't prove that.
I was only saying hi.
Oh, well, I'm busy. Busy doing nothing, that is.
Okay, have fun.
Lastly, we head back to the Muscle Beach where we talk to Larry the Lobster. He has a shovel and pail, but refuses to give it to us. We do, however, learn that he really misses Grandma's pies.
Nah, the only thing I really miss are Grandma's homemade pies. I sure wish I could eat those.
After the conversation, we unlock Grandma's house. So, I go to Grandma's house where we are first given a little cutscene showing Mr. Krabs making his way to the supermarket to do a little side hustle. After this cutscene, I enter Grandma's house to learn that the Grandma's pies Larry was fantasizing about was in fact from SpongeBob's grandma. Holy shit, Larry, you absolute stud. Grandma lets us know that she's currently baking a pie but is missing an ingredient, so we offer to run to the store and get it for her. I head to the store where the first thing we see is a fish leaving wearing what looks like Mr. Krabs' clothes. We talk to the cashier where we barter to clean his car in exchange for a free bag of urchin chips. After cleaning his car, we head to the back of the store to... Oh. Okay, yeah, Mr. Krabs sold his clothes, that makes sense. Anyways, Mr. Krabs lets us have this bottle of cooking oil for free, and we also go to grab the urchin chips. I go back to Grandma's house where the pie is now done. I sprinkle it with the urchin chips, go back to the beach to give it to Larry, and acquire the shovel and pail. I then go trade the cooking oil that we acquired for the sunscreen and give the sunscreen to the lady who told us about the treasure, who then gives us her parasol.
Oh, well, actually I wanted to borrow your umbrella.
I was stuck here for a few minutes as I didn't realize there was a whole other section of the beach to walk along. Once I finally did discover this, I dug up all the suspicious sand piles until I finally hit the jackpot. A treasure chest full of bus tokens. I took a handful for Patrick and I made my way back to the bus stop. Once at the bus stop, I gave Patrick his tokens and the bus driver emerges from a bathroom break. He says we won't be able to travel in this weather, so I give him the umbrella we acquired earlier and he begrudgingly agrees to drive us. We then are shown another cutscene where some hijinks ensue.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the whole sea?
Yeah, that is pretty annoying.
But I didn't say anything yet.
You don't need to.
Silence, you ignorant buffoons! Enough! Enough!
Get back up here in your seat and stop making so much noise. And that goes for you too, tough guy.
Causing the bus driver to miss the exit to Neptune's Paradise, and instead dropping us right into rock bottom.
You'll have to stay here until the storm blows over.
Patrick, this doesn't look like Neptune's paradise. Uh-oh.
Chapter 2 starts out with us stranded in rock bottom, standing outside of the bus station from the show. We walk into the bus station and talk to the bus driver, who basically tells us we're screwed. I go over to the window to talk to the attendant, but she isn't herself when she's hungry, so we have to go fetch a kelp bar for her. I head over to the vending machine, but the kelp bar requires a quarter to buy, which I don't have. I go across the street and talk to the fish standing at the bus stop, who we recognize as the fish we served back at the Krusty Krab. I ask if I can have the can he was kicking around, but he says no. I steal it anyways, then walk down the street to the other side of the bus station. Here we spot a quarter in the sewer, but no way to get it. So I decided to use the bathroom and...
Oops, fell in. Well, at least I got the quarter.
I guess we fell down the toilet and grabbed the quarter. Yep, why not? I bring the quarter back to the vending machine, get the kelp bar, then bring it back to the attendant who tells us about the weather station, which unlocks a new part of the map. I travel to the weather station and enter through the front door where I'm greeted by the receptionist. She tells us that they are too busy for tours currently, so nobody is allowed around the station unless they are on official business. With nothing else to do in here, I leave the station and head around the back. Here, we're first shown a cutscene of Patrick living his best life, slamming some brews with Mermaid Man. After this, I find a repairman back here who says he'll lend us his tools if we bring him a Kelpsy soda.
Maybe you forgot to turn it on.
Hey, man. I ain't that fried.
The bar opens up on our map, so it only makes sense that I go there next. At the bar, I first find Mermaid Man a bit tipsy in the parking lot. Barnacle Boy tells us he needs help hauling him into the invisible boatmobile. So I head inside and talk to the bartender. I get him to go help Mermaid Man, and he tells us we can help ourselves to the cola taps. I grab the empty mug on the table and go to help myself. The Kelpsy tap seems to be empty, so I instead fill the mug with the Diet Cola. Luckily, the can I stole earlier just so happens to be a Kelpsy can, so I pour the Diet Cola into the can. I bring the soda back to the repairman who falls for our tricks and lets us take his tools. With the box of tools in hand, I now have unlimited access to the rest of the weather station. I first head into the recording studio, where Plankton wants our help filming a public service announcement that definitely is not an ad for the Chum Bucket.
Did I say commercial? I meant public service announcement. Yes, I'm filming a public service announcement. Kids stay in school and all that. It's for the children.
There, the camera is focused right on him. Okay, Plankton, action!
Hi, this is Plankton, owner of the Chum Bucket and all-around swell guy. A lot of you may have noticed the Chum Bucket's rather numerous appearances on TV news programs recently. Not to mention the various headlines we've made in most local newspapers during the past few weeks. Well, I come to you tonight to set things straight once and for all. I'm innocent! I would never dream of doing the things those bottom-feeding reporters accuse me of. Those pictures were clearly faked. Rest assured that the Chum Bucket uses only the freshest ingredients. That is all. Eat at the Chum Bucket. Thank you, and good evening.
In return, he gives us another collectible VHS. I then proceed upstairs into the newsroom. Here, the weatherman tells us about a weather machine that they are making which will allow the weather to always be clear. He also mentions that the reason the repairman is fixing the antenna is because there is a spot in Rock Bottom where the weather is always clear, which is statistically impossible. We check the radar and mark that spot as our final location in Rock Bottom. I go to Marlin's cave. At the entrance, we're greeted with a slot machine, so I go gambling before landing on a set of arrows. These arrows tell us the path to take in the next room to make it to Marlin's little hideout. When we get to the hideout, we find Patrick in a deep sleep and head up the stairs to talk to Marlin, the weather wizard. He tells us about his beef with the weather anchor, letting us know that the weather machine would put him out of a job. Ironic, since it would also put the weather anchor out of a job. We agree to help him destroy the weather machine if he clears the weather for us so we can leave. He gives us a magic wand to unseal the sealed door back at the weather station. We head there, open the door, and shut down the weather machine. We then get a cutscene showing the weather clearing up as SpongeBob and Patrick take the bus back to Bikini Bottom.
We better get to the bus.
My turn! That's it! I've had enough of these two clowns. Uh-oh, I think we're running out of gas.
Hey, you got gas?
And... Yep, out of gas.
The bus driver once again gets fed up with their shenanigans and drops them off at the diner. Upon regaining control of SpongeBob, we find ourselves outside of the diner. We enter it to find Patrick just munching on a sandwich. I talk to him and he tells us that we should try using Sandy's rocket to get to Neptune's paradise. Coincidentally, just as I'm about to leave to find Sandy, the restaurant owner brings out a takeout order for her. I offer to deliver it, then head to Jellyfish Fields to find Sandy. Nothing of note really happens here. I walk across a few fields of jellyfish before coming across Sandy. I give her food and she tells us to meet her at her treehouse once I acquire my fishbowl helmet. So I head to SpongeBob's house in hopes that the helmet is sitting around there. Fortunately, it is. Less fortunately, there appears to be a snake in it. I come up with the clever idea of using Squidward's clarinet to court the snake out of the bowl, but upon sneaking into his bedroom, we find that he has a firm grasp on his instrument. I head back downstairs and watch the commercial on the TV, which seems to be advertising some knick-knack shop. It opens a new location on the map, so I head there next. At the knick-knack hippie store, I talk to the shopkeeper and he lets me in on some of his business practices before telling me I can take the last pair of free dream glasses.
Money? You insult me. We don't even accept money. We are here to serve all on the road of life in their quest for happiness or fun parks.
Well then how do you stay in business?
Trust fund.
I walk to the other side of the store, grab the glasses, and once again see a familiar face. He tells me he's never seen me before and has never even been to rock bottom, but I've got my eye on him. With the glasses in hand, I went back to Squidward's house. I sneak into his room once again and put the glasses on, which sends me into his dream. After walking through this trippy dream sequence, I make it to the concert hall where Squidward is performing. I convince him that he's playing the clarinet in the dream belonging to the wrong side of his brain, and he should be dancing instead while I deliver the clarinet to the correct side of his brain.
This is the dance recital. Dancing is clearly a left brain activity. The clarinet recital is over at the right brain.
Oh, well, I'll just get on over there.
No, don't bother. I'm covering right brain tonight. Just give me the clarinet and I'll head over. You stay here and dance. Dance like you've never danced before.
He surrenders his clarinet to us and busts a move while I scurry out of his brain. Now that I've claimed the clarinet as my own, I run back to SpongeBob's house and lure the snake out of the helmet. I grab the helmet and make my way to finally meet up with Sandy. Once I enter Sandy's dome, she tells me all we need is to find her oxygen tanks before we're ready to blast off. So I take a look around and find the oxygen tanks in like 5 seconds behind the picnic table. Is Sandy stupid? Or maybe she's just Texas.
What's the difference?
Anyways, I give Sandy the oxygen tank, and we're ready to launch the rocket. We're given another cutscene to wrap up this chapter. Here, Patrick knocks the fuel line loose, causing the rocket to not actually fill up on oxygen. While on the rocket, we're shown a scene that reminds me of every single one of my family vacations.
See that switch there? Turns on the headlights.
Are we there yet?
And that switch
Are we
there
there yet?
honks the horn. And this gauge shows how deep we
Are
are.
we there yet?
And these switches here are for the
Are we
ejection.
there yet?
Don't touch those.
Are we there yet?
I have to go to the bathroom.
Are we there yet?
I have to go to the bathroom.
And the most important gauge of all
Are we
is
there yet?
I have to go to the bathroom.
fuel.
Are
SpongeBob,
we there yet?
what happened to all of our oxygen?
Predictably, the rocket runs out of fuel and crashes down, marking the start of the next chapter. Beginning chapter 4, we start at the crash site of the rocket. While Sandy works on repairing it, we're tasked with refilling the oxygen tanks. She tells us we can go to a place called Oxygen Springs to get some oxygen. However, upon arriving there, we're greeted by a closed gate and someone denying us access over the intercom. They tell us that if we want to enter, we need to be in dress code, which consists of wearing a suit jacket.
Now that's a pretty narrow interpretation, don't you think?
Look, buddy, I may be just a camera, but I wasn't born yesterday.
So I ran back to the rocket crash site. Before I return, we get a little cutscene showing off your usual neighborly quarrel. After all, who doesn't yell at their neighbors over a coconut? After this cutscene, I find myself back at the crash site. I notice this billboard which repairs itself when interacted with and exposes a phone number. I took note of it as it'll probably come into play later once I get a quarter for the phone booth. I talk to Sandy, telling her about the encounter we had at Oxygen Springs, and she gives us a new lead. So we use Sandy's lead and head to Waverly Hills. Out of every puzzle in the game, this is the one I remember most vividly taking me forever to figure out as a kid. This extremely niche memory that I still hold on to may be cheating, but the one and only thing I remember is I need to grab a coconut from this tree, so I do. I then head to the entrance, which requires a pressure plate to open. I turn on the water, go back to the fountain, and absorb the water to bulk up. I am underwater, so I'm not sure why I couldn't just, I don't know, absorb the water around me. Regardless, I open the gate and head on in. I first make my way to the old shack in the back. After a brief discussion with this chonker of a fish, I head into his back room where I find the use for the coconut. I steal his golden coconut and replace it with a regular one, Indiana Jones style, before leaving the house. I then proceeded next door to the neighbor that was beefing with him earlier. Turns out the golden coconut was stolen from him, and since I already have it, I decide to return it to him. In return, he rewards me with a quarter. No good deed goes unpunished. Anyways, now that I have a quarter, I go back to the phone booth to call the restaurant and get their location. Now that I have the location of the restaurant, I travel there to try and get a suit jacket. Unfortunately, there is an invite-only event going on and I'm not invited.
You're the bouncer?
I thought we had established that already.
You sure there's not a couple more of you in there?
What is this twaddle? The bottom line is this. No invitation, no entrance, simple.
So I walk down the sidewalk where I meet a shopkeeper who tells me that he has a spare invitation to give out if I can guess the restaurant's new slogan. I walk further down the sidewalk where I can take a look at the restaurant from this overlook, and I get a glimpse of the new slogan. I return to the shopkeeper, tell him the slogan, and receive the invitation. I bring the invitation back to the front gate, and just like that, I'm admitted to the event. When I enter the restaurant, I flash my invitation, grab a jacket, and seat myself at my table. The waiter comes over and tells me what's on the menu, but despite this, SpongeBob does not remember fine dining and requests a Krabby Patty.
What? Krabby Patty? Well, I never. Get out. You must be from Bikini Bottom or some equally despicable place. Get out of this restaurant immediately. In fact, I shall remove you myself.
This act of blatant disrespect results in the waiter forcibly removing me from the establishment, but luckily for me, they forgot to take the jacket back. So now that I have a jacket, I return to Oxygen Springs and finally gain entry. Somehow, Patrick got here before me. I'm not sure if he explains why, but I think I accidentally skipped some dialogue by going straight to the next step before talking to him. I went into the locker room where we meet a familiar face one more time. Here, the bit pays off as we learn that this fish has a twin.
You can tell me what you're doing here.
Are you sure you do not need a towel?
Yes, yes, I do not need a towel.
I beg you to reconsider. Everyone should have a towel.
I'm a sponge. I practically am a towel.
Hey, it's your life. I'm just trying to help is all.
Look, the jig is up. I've been seeing you everywhere. Now what's the story, Buster?
Me? You've been seeing me everywhere? Like where?
Well, first I saw you at the Krusty Krab. You made me fix you a Krabby Patty. Then I saw you at the bus stop. You were kicking a can in the air. Then I saw you at Sardines. What do you think about that?
I think you've gone quite mad. Hi, Leonard. Hi, Petro. Bye, Leonard. Bye, Petro.
Wait a second. Who was that?
That was my twin brother, Petro. Hi, Leonard. Hi, Ryan. Bye, Leonard. Bye, Ryan.
And that?
That's another twin brother, Ryan.
How many twin brothers do you have?
Including Petro and Ryan?
Yes.
4,132. More or less.
The entire time, it was different twins that we were coming across during our travels. Anyways, I find the last tape in one of the lockers before grabbing Patrick's shorts and bringing them to him. Once Patrick gets dressed and leaves the spring, I use it to fill the oxygen tank, and we're presented with our final cutscene. We board Sandy's rocket once again, blasting off to Neptune's paradise. But this time, we finally make it. However, once we get there, we are told the park is closed and the tickets are for next week. We did all of that for nothing.
This week, we're having a private party for somebody named
Let's see here. SpongeBob SquarePants.
Except the park was closed to hold a private party for none other than SpongeBob. That's right, all of our friends and random characters we met along the way jump out from behind the ticket booth and surprise SpongeBob with one big party. SpongeBob, Patrick, and the rest of the gang all get to hang out at the theme park and ride the attractions, and just like that, the game is over as they finish the day walking into the sunset. So, with that said and done, you may be wondering what the takeaway is here. First, this game is actually an extremely underrated gem. It's certainly a bit dated and is way easier than I remember it being as a child, but the story is decent enough and the writing and voice acting is actually really good. All of the main cast used the voice actors from the show, with side characters seemingly voiced by random people who worked on the game that actually add their own surreal charm. More than that though is a dire need for game preservation. You see, setting this game up in the beginning made me realize one major issue. We have no standardized way for preserving digital media. Disk drives are a thing of the past, and even if you do have one, you have to wrestle with the endless compatibility issues that could just make your games completely unplayable. Even though I got this running on Linux, it was far from being accessible, and still had its own set of issues. I, and I'm sure many others, grew up with so many games such as this, and whether they're actually good or just nostalgic, they need to be preserved. If we don't preserve the games we grew up loving, one day they may just cease to exist. All the time spent by developers passionately working to leave a legacy, and all the time spent playing these games could disappear just like that, becoming nothing more than memories that we take with us to our graves. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like, and also let me know in the comments if you grew up playing this game, and if so, what are your opinions on it? If you haven't seen my last video, you can click somewhere here to go ahead and watch it now. And if you enjoy it, I would consider subscribing. My next video is going to be very similar in style, so subscribing will make sure that you're notified right when it drops. Again, thank you all so much, and until next time, take care of yourself.